Today I'm going to share some simple tips that you can start using right away to improve the images that you create in Midjourney. So let's get straight into it. The first tip is to upscale your images for free. This is a pretty simple tip, and as long as you have the standard plan or higher in Midjourney, all you need to do before you actually go ahead and upscale is head up to the art generation bar on the Midjourney website, open up the settings, and then turn on relax mode. And then you can go through and upscale your images, and it will upscale them without using your GPU time. However, it is slightly slower, but worth it if you're low on GPU hours. And if you're using this on Discord, simply type in /relax, then go in and upscale your images from there. And you'll find that you can queue a few of these up and upscale them without using any GPU time whatsoever. But you can also earn free GPU time on the Midjourney website. So when you're logged in, simply head over to tasks down here. And this area will change, but look for this little badge that says earn fast hours. And if you follow any of these tasks, you can earn fast hours. Even sometimes they have surveys, but essentially I can come in here and start curating these images to earn some fast hours. So I simply click the image I think should be on the front page, such as this one, or this one. So the top 2,000 rankers of the day receive 1 GPU hour. I recommend doing at least 50 or 100, and you can do this daily, and that way you'll gain more time to experiment and create better images. But heading back to tasks, that also brings me to my next tip, and that is to master personalization in order to get images closer to your personal preferences. So I'm on the explore page and I found this image here, and I decided to try it out for myself. And with that prompt, I got this first image, no personalization, and then this image with personalization, which I think looks a lot better. And you look at all four here, the top row is the non-personalized, and the bottom row is the personalized, and these ones tend to look a lot better. There's a few ways we can do this. One simple way is actually just to head to tasks, and you can rank image aesthetics for your global profile, or you can rank image aesthetics for Niji. So you can actually have a personalization profile for the Niji model or for your main model. So if I click on this one here, all I need to do is choose which image I prefer the look of. And if I do that and rank up to 2,000, which you see here, I've ranked over 4,000, it will build a personalization profile. So the way to do it quicker is to hit 1 on your keyboard for left or 2 on your keyboard for right. So I hit 1, 1 again, 1, 2, 2, and I can go through and rank images that way. And if I don't like either, I can hit 3 to skip. But where it gets really interesting is now if I head over here to personalize, for one, you can see my personalization is turned off. If I turn that on, you will notice it is now turned on the creation bar. So I'll turn that back off. And I have my global profile here. And if I ever want to come back in and rank, all I have to do is click on it to continue ranking those images. But coming back, I can also view my creations made with this profile and even copy the code to add it into my images. And at any point, if I want to, I can actually create a new profile and switch between them. So you can see I've got a few here. I've done a cute test profile and a Gustavesque black and white, which is actually a mood board, which I'm going to cover in a minute. If I come to create standard profile, all I need to do is start ranking, and you'll see it says 0 of 40 to unlock profile. So if I quickly go through and rank these images, and this footage has been sped up, you'll see once I hit 40, it says I've unlocked this profile, and I can copy this code. And to use that personalization, I just add that to the end of my prompt, either on the website or on Discord, or even just hit try it out and it will automatically add it to the bar. Or I can continue to rank images if I want to really dial it in a bit closer. But now if I head back to personalize, you'll notice there's here profile 2, and this is the profile I just created. And I can give it a name by clicking on the pencil icon. I come up here and type in a name such as video test, click OK. And I've now named that profile, and I can use it by clicking copy code and simply adding it to the end of my prompts. Now, before I share the next tip, I also want to mention this video is sponsored by Skillshare. So in order to improve what I do as an artist and designer, I've been looking at diving a bit deeper into improving my drawing skills. So I looked up this class on Learning How to Draw by Mimi Chow, which covers a whole bunch of lessons on not only how to draw, but how to shade and improve what it is that I do when I'm drawing with pen and paper. But by having a quick look, I can learn just about any skill on Skillshare because it's basically the largest online platform for creatives, created by creatives. And they have such a diverse range of classes that you can explore, and they're all made by industry professionals, so you can be sure you're getting the best information out there when it comes to improving your skills. And there's a wide range of categories like photography, including this class from Justin Bridges, graphic design like this class from Jeanette Liao. There's classes on music, cooking, business, marketing, anything that helps you with your creative career you can learn about on Skillshare. There are also several classes on AI art and Midjourney if you wanted to improve your skill set there also. Now when it comes to being creative, practice is key. It's a lot like going to the gym. The more you work that muscle, the stronger it gets. So going to Skillshare and learning new skills and improving what you do is a great way to improve your creativity over the long term and therefore improve your career and your income. So I highly recommend that you check this out. The first 500 people to sign up using the link below will get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. So start today and start improving your creative skills for the long term. But now on to my next tip, which is to learn how to use mood boards for further personalization. Again, we're back at the personalize section, and you're going to notice over here it says create mood board. If I click on that, you'll notice I can upload images or add images from a link. So if I have images I've downloaded or created, I can upload them, or I can simply add a link to an existing image on the internet. But you can use these, but also you can use add from gallery. And I'm going to use this because I think it's one of the most useful ways to combine AI styles with your art. I click add from gallery and I can go through and select the images I want to use. But this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. If I come up the top here to search and type in a style or artist I've used in the past, like HR Giga, because I'm a huge fan of his work, I can go through and find the images I've created using that style. And I can simply click individually on the images I want to use. If I want to add this entire day here, I can add the whole day, or I can subtract it, or I can continue to click on one image at a time. But once I have the images I want, I'm going to scroll back to the top, press back, and then wait for all those images to appear here on the page. And now I can see they've all appeared there. I can scroll down to check, everything's looking pretty good. And then I can come up the top here where it says Moodboard 3, click, and then rename it. I've called it HR Giga Moodboard. I can set as default if I want to, but instead I'm just going to copy the code, add in a prompt. I've added a woman using a laptop. I hit enter, and you can see despite not actually prompting for the style, I get a pretty stylized image here of a woman using a laptop. And for reference, when I turn off the personalization, I get these images. That's a pretty big difference between using the mood board and not using the mood board for that prompt. Now, if I want to go back, I can head back into personalize, come down. My mood board is here, view the creations, copy the code, but I can also come back in by clicking on this tile, and I can add or subtract images if I want to modify this mood board a little bit further. The next tip is to create cleaner, simpler images by dialing down the quality setting. So I want to come into the website or Discord, type in my prompt. I have a close-up of an eye showing the iris. And I've actually popped a seed in there this time so we can get a very direct comparison. Now what I do to lower the quality is type in --Q space 0.5 to bring the quality down. This means it'll create the image in half the time and use half of the power, and therefore it renders less detail. I hit enter and we get this image, which is actually still pretty good despite only using half of the render time. But what happens if we take the exact same prompt with the exact same seed and we remove the quality? We get this image, which even at first glance already looks a bit sharper. If we pop these two side by side, you can see the details in the reflection, in some of the lines, and even just the sharpness of the edging. Big difference between quality of 1 and the quality of 0.5. But also, if an image simply has too much detail, you can dial it back by copying the seed, using the same prompt, and then just using that quality command. And if you're not sure how to find the seed, it's a simple case of opening the image, coming up here to these little 3 lines, going to copy and seed. And that places the seed into your clipboard. And once you've copied your prompt over, just type in --seed at the end, paste in that number, and then each image you create will basically be using the same base and should turn out more or less the same apart from the differences in prompt and settings that you apply to it. But my next tip is quite the opposite, and that is to actually double the quality. And this works with version 6.1 and it will increase the detail of your image. So once again, we are here. I'm going to use this prompt. I'm going to type in --Q space 2. So now I'm able to double the quality and double the amount of time spent on rendering this image, which means it's twice as expensive on my GPU time, but should produce twice the detail. I hit enter, and now the detail has been stepped up further. Well, let's compare that to our quality of 0.5. Once again, you'll notice the reflection. a lot of the details of the eyelashes and the reflection are missing. The detail of the lines around the iris are also much softer, and it's just a little less sharp on the 0.5. So that's a big difference from half quality to double quality. Add the standard quality one in the middle, and you can see a little bit of a graduation through that detail. But increasing or decreasing the quality comes down to personal preference. If you like an ultra sharp image like this one, then stick with doubling the quality, but sometimes you just want a softer image as well, in which case you can lower the quality like this one on screen now. My next tip is to try non-anime styles on Niji. So Niji is Midjourney's anime model, but what I've got is this image right here. I created it with version 6.1, not Niji, and you can see it's got artist name attached to it. It's a very particular style. So if I want to try this on the Niji model, I come up, I'm going to add it to my prompt bar, I'm going to come down and change my model from 6.1 to Niji 6. I'm going to hit enter, and you can see how the result is very similar, but it has a different spin to it due to the change in model. And for comparison, here is the original style, and then I'm going to bring the new one in on the right, and you can see how it's a bit brighter and a little bit redder in its interpretation. But I threw a few more styles at it, once again going back to HR Giga style, and you can see how on the right, Niji's created something a little bit different with that model. And moving on to geometric 3D style, we get something a little more colorful, once again a little bit different but still reminiscent of the same style. Then a cinematic 2022 sci-fi movie screen cap, and we get something very similar again with the eyes, but like it's just a bit different again. And then a World War I found photo. It's really looking the same, but we still get a different interpretation of that style. So anytime you have a style, throw it at Niji to see what results you can get. If you find you're more comfortable working in Discord over the website, you can actually bring website generated images into Discord with /show. So I've got some images here, which we've just looked at, but if I want to bring, say, this image into Discord, all I need to do is come up to the top 3 bars up here, type in copy, job ID. I then head to Discord, and at the bottom I type in /show, space, and then I paste that number into the job ID, hit enter, and it will bring up my image grid. So from there, I can upscale the first image, and if I prefer to use the image editing tools here, and I feel like I can get something better out of it, then I can use these tools right within Discord, despite the fact this image was generated on the website. And this helps if you've got tools like Insight Face that run in Discord that you want to do some face swapping and things like that. My next tip is to actually zoom in on your AI art creations with this little editor cropping hack. So I have this image here, which has 3 images within it. If I zoom down to the editor and open it up, I can technically crop in the editor. However, when I go to submit, I get an error. It says the editor doesn't support full cropping. So I'm actually going to leave the editor, and this time I'm going to upscale the image with a subtle or creative upscale. And once I'm done, I open up my upscale, which is a much higher resolution, double the resolution. I can go into the editor, but it won't allow me to actually crop the image. So instead I'm going to come up here and download it. I'm then going to move the image to an external cropping tool. So go to google.com, type in Adobe Image Cropper. We will then see a result that says Free Image Cropper. I click on that, I drag in my upscaled image that I downloaded, then I use the handles of the tool to crop into the area that I want to zoom into. And when I'm done, I come up and I click the download button to download my image. I then come back to the Midjourney website, and on the left menu, head to Edit. Keep in mind that if you haven't had a paid account for at least 12 months or an annual account, you won't have access to this feature, but it will be rolling out to everyone soon enough. But otherwise, click on Edit and you'll access the image editor. And you can edit an uploaded image, but I'm just going to drag and drop my cropped image from the Adobe Image Cropper in to the editor. You then want to make your brush size nice and small over on the left menu, and then simply sort of brush out a section of the image. I then come up the top to the prompt bar, just type in something simple like fill, submit that edit. I'll then have 4 options top right to choose from. Now they're all probably going to be mostly the same, but pick the one that looks the best. And once you've chosen and selected that variation, you can come down the bottom left to upscale to gallery. And once your upscale is complete, you can open it up, and then you can even download it. And the good news is that the resolution is much higher than the image that was cropped. Now the cropped image was 1563 by 603 pixels. However, the image we brought into Midjourney, into the editor, and we upscaled is 3,488 pixels by 1344. So it's doubled the resolution of that cropped image. So if we zoom in on the details, you'll see it has actually upscaled the details and improved the quality of the image. My next tip is to upscale small external images using the Midjourney editor. So I have this image I drew many years ago. It's been scanned. However, this version of the image is not very big. It's 450 pixels by 551, so the quality isn't great. But coming back to the Midjourney website is if I head to the editor and the same limitations apply, you need 12 months of account or an annual subscription. But I click edit new image, drag in my Muay Thai fighter, and it's been placed on the canvas. I apply the same process as our last tip. Again, with a small brush size, I remove a small portion of the image. I'm going to just type in white or fill or something to fill in this area, submit my edit. I choose which one looks best. They're all going to be basically the same in this case. I upscale to gallery, and once that upscale is complete, I can open it up and it has upscaled my drawing. Now again, if I download this image, it has quadrupled the size of this image, but it doesn't work in multiples because it has gone from 450 by 551 to 1984 by 2432. This is because the canvas is generally around a set size, the same size Midjourney tends to generate its images at, and it will simply double the size of that canvas. So we've actually been able to create a much larger image with this process, and it's done a pretty decent job of upscaling some of the details. My next tip is to use seed to adjust values within an existing image. Now I go a little bit more in depth on this in my online course, which is linked to below. But if I have these images here and I want to adjust the stylization factor, first thing I want to point out is if I come down and use the prompt and simply resubmit, notice how these images are different to these ones. And I really want to play with this top left image. So what I need to do is come down here to more, go to copy, seed. So this time I use my prompt, come at the top, and at the very end I type in -- seed space, and then I paste that in and hit enter. And now, apart from some very minor details, this image grid, paying particular attention to this image, is very similar to before, which means we can now work at this image as our starting point and adjust our values. So now, if I use this prompt on these new images, I've already got the seed in there, so sometimes it's good, you might have to copy it in, but if you've already generated some images with that seed, use that prompt again, it should appear again, especially if you can see it over here. I can come down to my sliders. I can take the stylization from 100 and bring it up to say 250. Submit again. And although the order might be different, we can see our image here is a little more stylized from here to there. Just like you can see, this first image is a little bit different from this image, and this bottom sort of goldy image is up here. So it has reorganized them, but essentially we've still been able to work on this image. But this is where my next tip comes in. At the moment we have stylize of 250. I'm going to click use again. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to reset the aesthetics. Because what I want to do is use permutations to try a few more different levels. So now if I type in a curly bracket and type in 120, 140, 160, 200, and then I end with a curly bracket, it will submit the exact same prompt with a stylized value of 120, 140, 160, 200, and 250. So I submit that, and it will generate a whole bunch of images for us to compare. And now I can go through and compare these images one by one and watch how increasing the stylized value in a very small degree slowly makes the image evolve. And because we're using that seed, we know that it's working with the same base. So we're essentially creating small alterations to the settings of the image to see where Midjourney takes us. Now you can also go a lot broader. I've got a stylize of 0, 10, 500, 750, and 1000 if I really want to see the diversity. I haven't included 250 because we already have it down here. So then I can compare them again. I hit enter, And then from image to image, we can observe some more drastic and almost random changes as the style tends to sort of bounce around a little bit and then sort of solidify in certain areas, change drastically. And as you get higher, it tends to sort of get a bit more cemented in that Midjourney opinionated style. Also keep in mind, you can try this with chaos. However, you will get a greater variety of image. Although in this instance, the difference was a lot easier to track and you can see how it changes over time. But when you compare that to the image grid, with chaos you can see starting at 0, working up to 10, and onward, you can watch the diversity within the grid really go in completely different directions and create something a bit more interesting. Or even try it using the weird adjustment to see what results you get that way also. And then again, you can observe the impact as you raise the weird setting up and compare it through your images. So that's all with the same seed, the same prompt, we're just seeing what impact these different values have on the images. My next tip is to learn when to use parameters on the Midjourney website. So coming back to our create page, I'm going to use our same prompt as before. Now if I submit this prompt and I get these images using version 6.1. However, if I want to use that same prompt again and I have no parameters attached, I decide I'm going to change over to version 6.1 to say Niji, much like we did before, and submit that. And then I'm able to create these images using Niji. However, I prefer to work in version 6.1 for 99% of the time. And if I happen to leave Midjourney or I'm just in a bit of a flow state and I start prompting for something else, maybe I type in something like Cyberpunk Samurai to Buddha's Temple, hit enter, I've produced it in Niji again, but perhaps I forgot to change it back and I just simply wanted to only use Niji that one time, and now I've actually generated more images that I didn't intend on generating. So now I'm going to come back to version 6.1, and then I'll use the exact same prompt and remove the parameters I added. And now I'm back to using 6.1. But if I decide I want to experiment further with this, maybe I change it from a Buddhist temple to an Aztec temple, and maybe for this one image I want to use Niji. Just type in --Niji, hit enter, and I've created these again in Niji. But what's really cool is if I decide to type in another prompt again, such as something random like an Aztec cyborg, if I come down to my settings, it's still on version 6.1. So I just want to demonstrate that sometimes when you're doing once-off images using a particular model or a particular setting, prompting for it can actually be better than constantly going in and changing those settings, because it will remember those settings for your next prompt. So for once-offs, I recommend using parameters. But here's where it also gets pretty interesting. I'm going to wipe out this prompt, reuse this one, and as we mentioned before about permutations, is I can use curly brackets to try a bunch of different models. So again, and now with these permutations, I can use the exact same prompt and try a bunch of different models, such as Niji, version 3, version 4, version 6.1, or also version 4 with the style Cursed, which is a hidden style unique to version 4. This means I can experiment with different models to see which result I like the best. So I hit enter, and now I'm able to review the images I've created. We have the Niji 6 images, the version 3 images, version 4 images, version 6.1, and version 4 style Cursed. So that's a great way, using the parameters and even using permutations, to test different models on the Midjourney website. But if you want a complete list of the parameters you can use, check out my Midjourney cheat sheet, which is linked to below. That brings me to my next tip, which is to remaster images made with old models. So I come back to these images again, and I've got the 6.1 images, and I like the detail, but I actually prefer the layout of some of these older models. Now, if you're using version 4 or earlier, what you need to do is find an image you want to upscale. Let's say we're going to work with this one here. I'm going to upscale this image because they're not rendered at full resolution until version 5. I come back to create, and now I've upscaled that image. I click on it, and I come down to remix subtle. And what it's going to do is add the image in here and add version 3. But I'm going to change version 3 to version 6.1 and hit enter. And you can see it's taken the version 3 image and used version 6.1 to improve some of the details. But there's still more you can do. If I click on this image, and if it's still not quite where I want it to be, is I can just continue to hit very subtle, and I can slowly evolve that image. As you can see, it builds upon the previous generation. And I can keep doing this over and over again if I want to see how far it goes, until we land on something that resembles our version 3 image, but has a little bit more detail, much like the version 6.1 generations. The next tip is to use random objects as character references. So just to demonstrate quickly, if I take this image of a woman, drag her into this bar, and use her as a character reference, when I type in my prompt of a woman waiting in a street alley, hit enter, you can clearly see how it references her character in this image. However, if I use this prompt again, remove the character reference, go to organize, and I instead grab this texture here and pop it in, make it a character reference, and hit enter, Midjourney still finds a way to incorporate that into the image with the character, but it also has an impact on the coloring of the character. So using random objects, textures, can be a great way to experiment with getting different and unique images using Midjourney's character reference function. But my next tip is to discover more style codes with -- repeat. Let's take this prompt again of a woman waiting in a street alley. If I type in --sref random and hit enter, I get a stylized image and a style code that I can use. But if I use this prompt again, making sure I change the code out for random, I can actually use -- repeat at the end of that prompt. Now I have the basic plan, so I can go up to 10, but if you're using Pro or Mega, I believe you can go up to 30. But if I hit enter, you can see it produces 10 image grids, all with unique sref codes. So this is a great way if you're looking to discover more codes just at random. Simply using the repeat function can help you get that done, and you can discover more codes just through the Midjourney create page. This also works on Discord if you want to use it that way as well. My next tip is to prioritize learning style phrases over style codes. So the reason I say to do that is simply because if something changes in Midjourney and the style code's already set, we're going to lose access to the styles we want to use. Or if you want to move to another platform, these style codes are essentially useless to us. Now, if I like the style of this image here, I can simply save this image and use it as a style reference. And that is something you can use on most AI art platforms. But what I'm going to do is right click, copy the image URL, and I can actually create a prompt from this by going over to Discord, typing in /describe, going to link, pasting in the image link, and hitting enter. And Describe produces a series of prompts for me, and these are pretty long, so they're not basic phrases. But what I can do is imagine all of these, and while it's not exact, it gives me a few different options of some images. I think the last one is probably the closest to it, even though it's more of an illustration style. But I can copy this prompt, type in /imagine, paste it in, and I can start to modify and experiment, even changing the subject to say something like, because I just like to use summarize, and I can sort of keep this prompt as it describes relatively accurately what we've created. So I hit enter, and that process can help me learn certain prompts that I can save, or even phrases to use to get a similar effect on my images, and just simply changing out that subject so I can go to other platforms or use this in the future if the style codes ever disappear. And to piggyback off that tip, to actually expand upon it, you can actually learn styles and phrases through the Midjourney's upload function. If I'm in Midjourney, I come up to the prompt bar up here, click on the image icon, and I can choose from images that are already here, but I can actually upload an image. So if I take this image, which I created a few years ago, move it over into here and upload it. Once it's uploaded, I can hover over it and click on this little information icon. When I do that, it produces some information for the subject, but also the artists and other descriptions like redshift render, which I've never heard of before. So if I come up here and type in a man's face, comma, I can type in Jack Kirby, Jim Lee. I can click on these various little areas here. We've got grainy film filter, red tone. I can go through, learn some styles, and simply click on them to add them into my prompt. And then I hit enter, and then I'm able to create these images which don't look identical in style, but very similar in a lot of ways. And it's a great way to discover different phrases to experiment with your images. And there's nothing stopping you from downloading the images you created using style codes and re-uploading them for the same process. Now, my next tip is to make use of prompt formulas. So prompt formulas allow you to sort of paste in some framework and kind of fill in the blanks on your prompt. These allow you a little bit of a guide to sort of help prompt better, and they can help you produce better images because it gets you thinking about what you need to put into your prompt. Now, I recommend actually watching this video to learn more about prompt formulas, and it will help you sort of get a better grasp of how they work, but also give you some prompt formulas that you can try for creating images in Midjourney. Otherwise, that's the video for today, guys. If you liked it, please give it a like, comment if you have any questions. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next time.